Hi. Have you ever wondered why certain foods feel like a warm hug? Why after a difficult day you don't suddenly crave broccoli? Why nobody stands in front of the refrigerator at 10 p.m. at night thinking, what would make me feel better right now? Plate of steamed vegetables. Instead, we crave chocolate, ice cream, cookies, pizza, fresh bread, macaroni, and cheese. The foods that make us feel safe, the foods that make us feel comforted, the foods that somehow seem to understand exactly what kind of a day we've had. And if you've ever experienced that, I want you to know something. You're not strange. You're not weak. You don't lack discipline. And you're certainly not alone. Because one of the things I have noticed over many, many years by working with women is that comfort food isn't really about the food, it's about comfort. As the word implies, the food simply happens to be the vehicle. Now, I know that may sound obvious, but I want you to really think about it. Imagine you've had one of those days where everything seems to go wrong. Perhaps somebody criticized you. Perhaps you've been rushing around since 6 a.m. Perhaps you've spent the entire day taking care of other people's needs and wishes and desires. Perhaps you've had an argument with your partner or worried about money. Perhaps you're exhausted or lonely. Maybe you're simply tired of being strong all the time. And then at the end of the day, you find yourself reaching for a certain food. Not because you're physically starving necessarily, but because something inside you is hungry. And that hunger is often emotional rather than physical. What many women don't realize is that comfort food often provides something that is missing elsewhere in their lives. Not nutrition, but the kind of comfort these foods create in your body, in your cells, in your stomach. Relief, pleasure, a break, a moment of peace, a sense of being cared for. And if we're honest, most of the time that makes perfect sense. Because when life becomes difficult, every human being looks for comfort somewhere. Some people turn to television, some to shopping, to others to alcohol, some lose themselves in work, and some turn to food. But the reason, the cause is always the same. The interesting thing is that food is one of the few comforts that is available almost instantly. You don't have to earn it. You don't have to deserve it. You don't need an appointment or permission or anybody else's cooperation. Within minutes, you can create a temporary feeling of comfort. And one of the biggest problems is that food is being seen as the worst problem to have because it's being criticized the most. The worst thing is not the food, it's the meaning we give it and the world gives it. And that's why you each time feel guilty when you eat some comfort food and thus cannot really enjoy it, which is a pity. Now, does that comfort last? Usually not. And that's where many women become frustrated naturally. Because the original problem remains, the stressful job remains, the loneliness remains, the pressure remains, the exhaustion is still there the next day. And because those things remain, the need for comfort returns regularly. Because you are so stressed out that you need comfort regularly, which means the cycle repeats itself. And what I want you to understand today is that this desire for comfort itself is not the problem. And you can have comfort food from time to time if you do it the right way. There is a right and a wrong way. And if you deal with the real need for comfort the right way as well. Just know that the desire for comfort is deeply human. In fact, I would be more concerned if a person never needed comfort. because life is not always easy. Life can be beautiful, but it can also be painful. And during difficult periods, every one of us needs support, rest, kindness, and comfort. The question is not whether you need comfort. The question is where you're getting it from. Now, let me ask you something. When was the last time you genuinely comforted yourself without food? Not distracted yourself, not entertained yourself, not kept yourself busy, actually comforted yourself? When was the last time you sat down and acknowledged that you've been carrying a lot? When was the last time you allowed yourself to rest without feeling guilty? When was the last time you spoke kindly to yourself after a difficult day? For many women, those moments are surprisingly rare, for many even non existent. And yet they are desperately needed. Because what I often observe is that women become incredibly skilled at caring for everybody else, while forgetting that they themselves also need care, or at least something that can refill their well before keeping going and giving and giving and giving. They become the problem solvers, the helpers, the listeners, the organizers, the caregivers. And over time, they become emotionally depleted. Now, imagine that a woman arriving home after another demanding day. Is it really surprising that she reaches for something comforting? Honestly, I think it would be surprising if she didn't. It would be worse if she would reach to alcohol, for example, or to drugs. The problem isn't that she's looking for comfort. The problem is that food has become one of the only reliable sources of comfort available to her. And that's a very important distinction. Because once we understand that, we stop making the conversation about discipline. Because it's never about discipline. We stop asking, how do I stop eating comfort food? And we begin asking a much more useful question like, how can I create more comfort in my life for myself? Can you feel the difference? One question creates a battle, the other creates a solution. Because imagine for a moment that your life contained more of what your system has been searching for all along: more rest, more support, more connection, more peace, more kindness, more moments where you feel safe enough to simply be yourself, nothing else, just being yourself, home in yourself. Would you still need the same amount of comfort food? Maybe, maybe not. It doesn't really matter. At least not at that point. What matters is the mindset about comfort food. Anyway, the relationship would almost certainly begin to change. And that's why I believe that lasting change rarely begins with talking about food, or with, even worse, with taking the food away and losing the only thing that might give you comfort for a short moment. It begins with understanding what the food has been providing. Once you understand the role the food has been playing, you can begin creating healthier ways of meeting the same need. And suddenly the food no longer has to do all the heavy lifting. Now, I want to be clear. I'm not suggesting that every craving is emotional. Sometimes you're just hungry without realizing in all that busyness. Sometimes you simply enjoy a piece of chocolate. So what? And that's perfectly normal. The goal isn't to become afraid of comfort food. The goal is to become curious and aware about what's going on inside of you. My concern is not whether or not my clients eat sweets or comfort foods. My concern is what's going on inside of them. That's the real question. And that's where we have to start the weight loss process, because curiosity creates understanding and openness, and understanding creates freedom. So the next time you find yourself reaching for comfort food, instead of immediately criticizing yourself, I want you to pause for just a moment and ask a different question. What am I truly hungry for right now? Perhaps the answer is chocolate, but perhaps the answer is something much deeper. Perhaps you're hungry for rest, for connection, for support, for peace, for comfort. And once you begin listening to those answers, you may discover that your relationship with food starts changing all by itself. If you can't get what you're really hungry for at that moment, eat the chocolate and eat it with great joy and mindfulness. Guilt is a thing of the past. It doesn't get you anywhere. Guilt never gets you to weight freedom. If this conversation resonates with you, I would love to invite you to join our free Women Beyond Weight community. You will see that this community is created for you, especially if emotional eating and comfort food is an issue for you. It's not an issue for me, but it might currently still be an issue for you. It's a place where women come together to explore a kinder, more compassionate path of lasting weight freedom without pressure, judgment, or another set of rules. The link is below, and I hope to see you there. Thank you for watching this video. Take care. Bye for now.